Anime originals have always been hit or miss. They're either iconic classics that can't be touched, fade into obscurity, or are only remembered because of the time that we can't get back. Cloverworks anime originals have all been shaky. Darling in the Franxx, Wonder Egg Priority, 24th Ward, Promised Neverland Season 2. In all honesty, there isn't much of a difference between anime originals and anime adaptations. You know, except for the amount of planning, a proven record, or the number of hands in the cookie jar. And most importantly, time. Am I saying adaptations are better? No. I'm saying you can only twist an adaptation so much before it becomes its own thing. Wonder Egg Priority is an anime original that focused on 4 girls, their struggle, and friendship. The story follows Ai, Neiru, Rika, and Momoe as they try to bring back their friends who unalived themselves. Each character has a decent amount of screen time alone given to flesh out the character, as well as seeing them interact as a group. Aside from Ai, the girls seem to be friends of circumstance. Basically, they only hang out because they're all trying to resurrect their friends, except for Ai, who is introverted and doesn't really have friends. Bring them back, they must protect other girls who unalive themselves that come out of the Wonder Eggs and help them defeat their trauma, also known as Wonder Killers. This sounds good so far, right? So it begs the question, what the shell happened to Wonder Egg Priority? Ai is an introverted girl with heterochromia. She gets bullied for it. She becomes friends with Koito, a transfer student who thinks her eyes are beautiful, and not long after that, Koito, you know. Neiru is an intelligent yet cold young girl who's trying to revive her sister who stabbed her, then jumped off a bridge. She's really close with Ai, but clashes with Rika. Rika is a former idol. The person she's trying to revive wasn't exactly a friend, but a fan. She didn't want to see her getting in trouble trying to support Rika's idol career, so she told her they would never be friends, and she wouldn't want to be seen with her, which leads her fan to an early death. Momoe is often mistaken for a boy, and that gets her sometimes. That's her whole character. She didn't really get as much characterization as the other girls. She was sort of introduced pretty late into the series, like on episode 4. And she's related to Ai's art teacher, but that doesn't really go anywhere or really have anything to do with the story. Episode 1 through 7 presents the show as a Monster of the Week show with subtle hints to an overarching plot. Initially, I thought it would go the My Hime route and have the girls kill each other for one of their wishes to come true, but that didn't happen. Episode 8, titled The Friendship Plan. I didn't actually watch this episode when the show aired. I skipped along to make sure that there wasn't any new content and to reaffirm that it was exactly what I thought it was, a recap episode. And sadly, it took a numbered slot for a 12-episode anime. What the heck was going on in this production? Episode 9 is kind of weird because it ends with Neiru and Ai kind of just killing someone. These details aren't important. It's just really weird, but I guess it shows their bonds as friends and how they're both changing. Episode 10. This episode kind of contradicts itself in ways that I'm not the best to speak on, but Momoe is the first person to do enough to revive her person, which is nice and dandy, but then this butterfly-looking thing comes and kills her wonder animal and forces her to eat it. What is going on? Episode 11, the info dump. I know I'm not the only one who notices a significant drop-off when mystery shows do an info dump. People who have seen Darling in the Franxx know exactly what I'm talking about. The info dump for Wonder Egg was so unnecessary. It felt extremely forced and would have been better if the girls stumbled upon the truth rather than being force-fed. It ultimately sets up a final boss, an episode before the last one. Episode 12. Like everything else, the multiverse decides to open up, and Ai must protect a version of herself who never met Koito and ended it all. Afterwards, she clears the game, and the anime character with the greatest name appears. Kiara Rodriguez Matured, 18, Evening Star SS Plum appears and attacks Ai and takes an eye. Wonder Egg special. We actually had to wait like 2 months for this, and this was the most disappointing thing ever. Most of it was a recap. Koito is revived but doesn't remember Ai at all. Neiru goes missing with no setup, no real conclusion, and she's never found. We find out that she cleared the game and that her sister's back, and that Neiru is actually an AI. Ai ends up transferring schools and eventually grows apart from the other girls, but wants to see Neiru again. I think Wonder Egg Priority was a bit too ambitious for what we got in the final product. The animation went crazy. The color palette used bright, vibrant colors to portray dark themes, and everything about it visually was fantastic. But dear lord, the storytelling wasn't done well. I think they spent too much time on the Monster of the Week episodes. If they had already had a defined story with Frill, they could have started building that up around like episode 6. Even though I just watched the series for this video, none of the girls they helped protect stories ended up being being meaningful in the greater narrative, and they were largely forgettable. Everything in those last few episodes were inconclusive and extremely rushed. There wasn't any attempt at completing the narrative they established. Sure, the girls did get their friends back, even though they couldn't remember them, which is fine, but there was also talks of fighting a god to stop young girls from killing themselves, and on top of that, they set up Frill, an episode before the original run had finished, who really has no relation to the main story being told, till her friends kill the wonder animals. Like, what is going on in this writing room? The series was plagued with poor planning, people being overworked, though my biggest problem with it is that the story lacks a conclusion. The story is being pulled in so many ways and ultimately follows through with nothing being presented. What hurts the most is that it was shaping up to be really good, and I wish it could have just followed through with it. Wonder it could have been so much more than what it was. I know that Cloverworks has the money to invest in it and could revisit it one day. It was a good watch up until it wasn't, and it still has a lot of potential. I feel like these characters didn't get the conclusion that they deserved.